All right, today we're going to try to tackle the scrap wood pile that you have sitting in the corner with all these like little pieces like this here. This wood is coming from a fence that we just replaced in my backyard, and I've already used big sections of this fence piece to do another project, but in the end I ended up with a bunch of little pieces here. So what are we going to do with that? Well, what I've done in the past is make these state of Texas trinkets, whatever you want to call them, decor, and I make it kind of like the shape of a Texas flag. So this side right here would be where your blue and your star would go. Right here is going to be where the red goes, and then the white goes right here. Now I kept it rustic like this, and I put like a rusty star in here, and that seems to be a favorite that my daughter enjoyed. Or of course you can paint these or do whatever you like to with them, but this would be one project you could do that can help you get rid of some of this wood here. All right, hope you enjoy it. All right, so the first thing we need to do is to flatten the edges of these rough spots here that you're going to have with wood after it's been sitting out on the fence for a while, over a couple of years. So we're just going to flatten these out with the table saw, make it nice and smooth so we have a good gluing surface. So here we go. We just finished up cutting and smoothing out one side of the fence slats, so now we just need to focus on this side right here. And it looks like the final dimension or width, it's going to be about 3 1/8 inch. When I get done, we'll see. But for now, that's what it's going to take to get both sides smooth. Now that we have both sides flattened out, we can turn our attention to squaring off the edges, and then we'll move to assembly after that. Okay, we're going to start working on cleaning up the edges right here, and there's a couple things that you might want to keep in mind whenever you're doing this part of the process. One, if you're kind of going for that rustic look, then leaving things in here like these nail holes with the old rust right here can be a nice kind of accent for a rustic look if you're going for that. If you're looking for more of a clean look, then you're just going to cut that out of the wood and then make a nice clean cut on the bottom here so you have 2 square edges, and then when it comes to assembly you can kind of determine which side you're going to use whenever you're putting it together. The other thing to be looking for are cracks that might have happened in the wood. You might be able to see this right here. That is from, like, decay or bugs getting in there, and it might not be the best surface to glue to, so it might make sense to go ahead and just kind of cut that off right there to make sure you have a good clean cut. So we're going to get started on that next. Okay, now that we have cut our pieces of wood and they're clean on all sides and now everything's squared, we can go ahead and start assembly. So before we get to this, it's just going to start out as gluing pieces of wood together like this. So if you can picture the Texas flag, you're going to have your blue solid stripe right here. You can have the white stripe that goes across the top and the red stripe that goes across the bottom here. And as you can see, this is kind of a whiter piece of looking wood, and this is a little more red looking, so I'm trying to see if I can kind of get a natural look with just the wood that I have here to make the flag color. And then the prototype here, to give you a better idea of where we're going, you can see that this is actually 3 pieces of wood. You can see that I used a lighter piece of wood for the top, a darker piece of wood for the bottom, and these are actually 2 pieces of wood glued together on the bottom. Got lucky, got 1 piece of wood here. And then for the panhandle side, this is going to be a piece of wood right here, and then just the very tip right there is a second piece of wood. So this is what it'll look like eventually. It's going to be kind of rough when we start out, and as we glue everything together, we'll come back with either jigsaw or bandsaw and cut the image out. So hopefully that's making sense. I think once you see what I do here and kind of follow along, it'll definitely make sense in the end here. Okay, so I'm going to use my template again to kind of get an understanding of how I'm going to put these pieces of wood together. So as I said earlier, got the white looking piece on top, got the red one on the bottom, and if you look at this, you'll see that I'm not going to get enough coverage if I just stay, or keep it this way right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize some of this extra space that I have right here, cut that piece off, and then glue it to the bottom here. So I'm just going to go through that right now on that process, and you'll see how I do that. Now I can cut where this line is right here, remove this piece and bring it down and attach it and glue it right here to give me the bottom of the state of Texas shape here. Okay, now we're going to focus on the panhandle side here. As I mentioned earlier, this piece is an add-on at the very tip, so I'm going to take this piece right here, which is kind of a darker looking, almost kind of a bluish color for the wood, to do the blue side of the flag and the panhandle area of Texas. Okay, again, so I'm going to cut across this line right here, and then I'll probably just kind of, I'll take this piece, and this will end up being the very tip of the panhandle, so I'll just move this piece over here, glue it to the side, and that'll give me enough width to make the panhandle part of Texas. Okay, so we're going to start working on the coastline part of Texas here, and I have my wider looking piece on top. Then I need 2 pieces for the red, more of the coastal area of Texas, and so I've got 2 pieces that I've cut together. This is all 1 piece of wood right here. This was a cut off from here. It had a 45-degree angle there earlier, but I cut it out to make it flat on one side, and what I'm trying to work around is that little bit of decay right there. So in the final product, this decay will not be present. You won't be able to see that once we get done here. So we'll start on the coastline, then we'll work our way to the panhandle next. Okay, so now that we have glued these up and they're dried, we can start working on putting this piece with this piece, and we'll start that process right now. Okay, so we have the coastal side of Texas done, and turns out I didn't get this completely flush, so I'm going to use the belt sander here to get that flush and make a better seam whenever we glue the two pieces together. All right, now that we've got this nice and flush, we're going to go ahead and glue the two pieces together. Maybe you can kind of see how things are coming together now. But we'll glue those together next, and we're going to continue to use our template as a guide. So I just marked right here so I know where I'm going to place this piece so I get it lined up. Alrighty, so we've had this in the clamps for about 40 to 50 minutes now, so it's good to go. Everything's nice and dry and good and stable. So we are going to move to the next step, which is going to be taking a copy of this and placing it on here, and then drawing it out with a Sharpie to give me the lines to use my jigsaw to cut the rest of this out. So we're going to start working on that next. Okay, there we go. we go. So that's the rough cut of it. So I'm going to go back over it with some sandpaper, and then I have one other thing I'm going to do to kind of give it that last kind of rustic look on the sides here, because we have, you know, clean cuts now that doesn't really match the rustic, you know, naturalized wood here that we have. So I'm going to go and show you another trick for that. All right, now that we got the sanding done, I'm ready to go to my last and final step as far as, I guess, the woodworking part goes here. So one of the tricks I do to kind of give a little more of an aged look is to use this propane and just kind of burn the edges here a little bit, and that kind of gives it a little more of a rustic look rather than that, you know, fresh cut look. So that's what we're going to do here next. Okay, so we got the edges all burned, and it's, you know, darker than most people would probably want at this point. So what I do next is just go over the burn with some more sandpaper and kind of even out the tone with the rest of the wood. Well, actually, I've changed my mind. I'm going to go to a wire brush. I found it's much easier to get into the crevices with the wire brush, and it's doing a better job of giving me the look I'm wanting. So there we go. There you go. That's more what I'm looking for. So use a wire brush. All right. So, like I said, I'm trying to get more of a worn look on the outside, and I think going over with the propane tank here and then covering it with a brush afterwards gives you more of that natural look. So now you've got kind of the rustic look all the way around the state of Texas here now. There's one other touch that I put on here that seems to be popular is I have some old rusty type stars that I can put right here, and I'll go ahead and do that in this one here. We'll do that next. Okay, like I said, I'm going to do one final step. So I don't have the star mounted on this one. I just did the state as it is like this, and that's fine if you want to do that. This might be good for like setting things on if you want to, you know, hot plate type of thing if you want to do that. And if you have that in mind, then you might just want to keep it this way. Another step that you can take is you can go to like a Mexican import place and you can find these rustic stars. It's been a while since I've priced these things out, but you can find them kind of online or like I said, in a Mexican import store somewhere in your area. So I got these several years ago, and I started using them for this little small Texas here, and I like the way it looks. So we're going to go ahead and mount that in here now. right, so I didn't like where that was going, so I'm gonna move it over just a little bit here. Okay, there you go. So one other little tip, if you're gonna try to be as close to the Texas flag as possible, and you want to try to orient this middle line with the middle of the star right there too, to get that oriented. But for now, I think that's what we're gonna go with, and hopefully you enjoyed this project. Like I said, it's just some scrap wood that I have laying around. I've made several other states like this before. I made some larger ones like this, but people seem to really kind of like the small form factor one here. So hopefully you can get out in the garage or your workshop and make one yourself. Thank you.